And we are live. Welcome you guys to episode 15 of Congruity Corner, which is the live stream on the Congruity 360 YouTube channel that is all about transparency, pulling back the curtains and showing what is going on with this amazing company that is keeping your favorite companies out of the headlines in the best way possible. This is about cybersecurity, data management, and anything tech that you guys find interesting and even delivered to a layman like myself. My name is Dan C. Bearded. I am the co-host of this show. I am not a cybersecurity expert. I am not a data management expert, but I am deeply curious. I love learning, and I am surrounding myself with people that know this stuff potently. If that sounds good to you guys, I do ask two things today. I want to be super clear on these. Number one, I do expect, could you check to receive you remembered to hit the thumbs up on the video? Absolutely appreciate it if you guys could do that, whether you're live watching right now or you're catching the replay afterwards, which we always have tons and tons of replay viewers and comments, which is genuinely appreciated. And then secondly, if you would consider sharing this stream out. We are normally live on Tuesdays. Today is a different day, a Thursday. And I said this to somebody earlier today. It is the end of summer where days get lost and shuffled and nobody knows if it's a Thursday, a Tuesday, a Monday, if it's after lunch, before lunch. School is coming up. Some kids are back to school, vacation. It's still nice out. Very easy for people to forget or not know that we're live. So please consider sharing this out and hitting the thumbs up on the video. It is greatly appreciated. And if you're watching, subscribe and get involved. I promise this is a beautiful chat, a beautiful community, and a beautiful company. Shout out to Christopher, Leo, and JB who are here already. If you guys are watching, drop a comment in the chat. We would love to hear from you. Again, guys, every Tuesday, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, we are back on the regular schedule starting next week. Hello, Jill, as well. And I would like to welcome the co-host of this show, the expert side of the panel, the one in the know with a really cool hat on today. Please welcome Mr. Nick Phelps in the building. Nick, man, how are you today? I think I know the answer, but how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. I got no bandage on the hand. I got most of my fingers back. I can move them and I can pinch things and I can pick up a water bottle.
Dang!
Tell you what, things are looking up. So I'm doing pretty good.
Good. So Nick and I have been talking for the last 45 minutes. I entirely forgot about his hand, and one of the reasons we had to shift a date was because of a surgery. Real quick recap, Nick, what was the surgery? How's the recovery been? Update people.
Man, so it was trigger finger release surgery where they go in and make it so your fingers stop triggering if that's happening like mine were. So the recovery typically involves like a few months of physical therapy. Right. But oddly enough, this one didn't. And when I asked this is great. So Dan and I agree that there's a few professions out there in the world where it is completely acceptable to be really cocky. And in fact, might actually be the preferred state of mind to have in certain professions.
Necessary.
And a surgeon is definitely one of those people. So I remember when I was asking him like how long my physical therapy was going to be after the operation, he's like, "Oh, you're not going to need any physical therapy." And I said, "Well, the last one needed like 2 months. How come I don't need it this time?" And he's like, "Well, I'm a better surgeon." And that was just his matter of fact answer to me. And I gotta say, like, you know, this hand is looking about the same as this one already. And this is after years and multiple physical therapies. And this one's feeling really good. So, you know, definitely there is something to be said for a cocky surgeon.
That hit me like a ton of bricks. I loved that so much. And I have a question for the chat. What is another profession that you would need somebody in that position to be cocky, to be arrogant, to not be humble, to not be like subtle about themselves? You need, because think about the other foot, right? Well, no, let's not talk about foot and surgery here. Think about the other side of the equation. You go to the surgeon and you're like, how's the recovery going to be? Imagine the other option where they're like, Depends how it goes. If I do a really good job, it could look like not a lot of therapy, but if it's not up to par, or if it's kind of like a normal and average surgery, you probably have a couple months of physical therapy. I really hope I can do my best today. No, thank you. No, thank you.
No.
So what's another
I
one?
Can go home.
Right. I'm going to find somebody else. But in life, in society, that kind of mindset often is not rewarded, right? That kind of mindset is shamed and thought of in a bad way. I'll start right away. And we did not plan this or discuss this. I believe a cybersecurity and data management expert should 100% be overly confident, arrogant, cocky in what they do. If I'm coming to you to protect my company, I want you to be confident that you're going to protect my company. Like if I come to you and I say, hey, Congruity, I got this bank, I'm hoping to protect stuff. We might be able to help you out. You know, there's a chance. I want confidence. I want somebody telling me, yeah, we've got all the tools. We will train you. You're going to have to hold up your end of the equation, but I want a confident cybersecurity expert. Is that fair?
No, yeah, totally.
Okay.
You certainly don't want a timid one.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right.
I'd say cautiously confident is where you want that role.
Okay. Yeah.
You want a nice, open-minded confidence.
Yeah, for sure. Because there are some professions where you don't necessarily want that approach, right?
No.
I'll give you an example. A school principal. One of the reasons I'm not a school principal, I have a master's degree in administration, thought I was going to be a school principal. When I started, I was a very good teacher, and I, in my super confident mind, assumed everybody would benefit from my line of thinking. And as a principal, I could impose that on others. Guess what? I was wrong. That's not a good approach. You do not want a super cocky, arrogant principal because there's many different ways of teaching, just as there's many different ways of learning. A great principal is open-minded. A great principal is adjusting and learning. I don't want Nick Surgeon to adjust and learn while he has a scalpel on his hand.
No.
So that's so interesting because there are professions that have that, and there's ones that you shouldn't.
Yep. No,
like
no on-the-job training on that one.
Yeah, no, the continuing education isn't in the moment. And
Or better than the last one.
yes, yeah. Leo says better surgeon than he was before, or better than better. I'm assuming it's a new surgeon.
Different surgeon.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, different surgeon. The other surgeon is no longer even with the practice.
Wow.
And so, and it's not like when you bring it up, people aren't like, oh yeah, he went on to some really exciting stuff and this and that. They're like, yeah, he's no longer with us.
Yeah, it's my favorite phrase in business because it has such a double meaning, right? He's no longer with. Yes. Oh man,
it's always the over-the-shoulder look that gets you too. Even when you're in a closed room with one other person, and they still kind of go, "Yeah, he's not here anymore."
Yeah. Yep. Nope. I also want my chefs to be pretty arrogant and cocky, that it's going to be cooked properly and they're going to make a meal that's delicious, right? If you ask a chef, like, hey, what's good on the menu? It depends on your preference and what you like, No. I want them saying everything, but this is what I prefer. And then tell you in one. So interesting.
Speaking of which, can we just talk about a quick tangent on that?
Yeah, please.
What gets me, I don't know why this always bothers me so bad. And it's not to say that if you work at a restaurant, you need to have tried every single thing on the menu. And it's unreasonable to think that people would try every single thing on the menu. But I don't know why it gets me so bad when I'm like, how's this? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I haven't tried it. And then I throw out one more and I'm like, well, how's it look? You've seen it come out? Maybe it's a special. And then if I get another no, haven't seen it yet. And it's like, I just feel like you could be doing a better job at this right now.
at least hit me with the I haven't tried it, but man, do people have potent feedback and say that they love it or it smells great. Yeah, you gotta have something. You gotta have that follow-up.
You gotta have something. Just leave me hanging, asking questions like an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's and speaking of the professions there, and guys, today's topic is insanely good. I have goosebumps thinking about it. I had one thing that was super interesting. My son had his first orientation at his new middle school. He's going to middle school, and this is actually the middle school I used to teach at. And so for the first time ever in the exact building, the exact arena where I worked for 12 years, I get a different vantage point as the parent. And it blew me away. These teachers are awesome. I know that they're good at what they do. It blew me away at how bad they were at that situation. So we're working on our 11-year-old having better conversations with adults. He has ADHD. When he talks to people, he's thinking about the next thing. He's already moving. He's already drifting away. And so we get him to order food at restaurants, talk at the bank, that kind of stuff. But getting him to sit there and lock in and act like he wants to have the conversation and engage is tough if it's not about soccer. Yeah. And so we're like, we're going to use this. It's going to be perfect. We're going to set him up to talk. My son's name is Maddox. And we go in there, and I would, if I had to, I'd be like, this is Maddox. And the teachers were horrendous. I don't even blame Maddox for not being able to talk. He would go in, and the greatest thing they would say is, are you a fan of social studies? And he'd say, yep. And then it's just silence. And just like you were saying with the waiter, for me, when I did it, I had at least 6 like pre-programmed like things I would click depending on the client and hit them with that. And it would be funny. It would be a jab. It would lead them to something. And I would always get a laugh out of it. I would always have something, so for example, I always use this one. If they were really uncomfortable and they didn't like to talk, I would say, do you guys have any questions about like social studies or my classroom? And they'd say no. And I'd say, all right, well, let me hit you with this. You know how all the other teachers say there's no such thing as a dumb question? Well, they lied to you. So you not asking the questions, totally fine. I had an ex-girlfriend that when I was talking about Pearl Harbor, she asked me if that was the ship that sank. And she confused it with Titanic. And I'm like, so there are dumb questions. And they would laugh and they would leave. They had none of that. I'm like, how do you not have these pre-recorded like things you go to? Like, this is your first impression. And for me, that first impression led into the management of my classroom. If they like me, if they want to impress me, or if they have a little healthy fear of me, they're going to behave really well. And you just blew your chance to establish that. So yeah, I agree entirely.
Yeah. No,
it's frustrating.
Got to have that back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. You ready for this one, Nick?
I'm ready. This is
going
to be great.
If you guys are watching on replay, I know that we're not on our normal Tuesday, so we have some people that have made Tuesday lunches based on this. They'll catch the replay. Please leave a comment on the replay. This is a discussion that we want as many people to get involved with. It, in a way, could be more of a touchy subject, so I do ask for maturity and professionality, which we've never had any inkling of otherwise on this stream, but we don't like anything that is divisive or dividing. We are all here for discussing, and today is the topic that was 100% naturally led based on our previous stream of security and privacy and how they are not the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I, for one, and many others have almost combined them as a same term, that they are interchangeable. And I would like to start with just a definition so we're all on the same page, and then we're going to get to a conversation, and we're going to talk about something that's in the headlines right now, could not be more literally like potent to my town. Right now, that's perfect example of this. And let me read you guys with this, and then we're going to get the thoughts and discussions going. And this is everything congruity. Mm-hmm. This is everything cybersecurity. Security is the set of tools and defenses used to protect data and systems from outside threats, while privacy is about who has the right to control, collect, and use personal information. Mm-hmm. Two different things within the same arena. Nick, what is your first take on this? What comes to mind? Where do you go as someone who has been doing this for a literal majority of your life? Security versus privacy.
So the first thing that comes to mind whenever I think about it is just because you have a deadbolt on your front door and someone can't open it doesn't mean they can't look through your windows if your blinds aren't closed, right?
Okay, hold up. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have you're keeping them out.
Right. So
Security.
That's your deadbolt.
They cannot get in, but your glass can be seen through.
Mm-hmm.
That is not privacy.
Right. So you're secure, but you're not private.
That's incredible.
You know, that's literally the distinction.
Wow.
Right.
So, okay. And guys, I'm putting this together in real time. We purposely did not go over this or discuss this.
We did not.
So security, let's say in our world here.
Yeah.
You have the ability to keep people out from physically getting into it, being able to copy it, maybe not copy it. What does security do in terms of cybersecurity?
Well, it'll keep unauthorized, people away from that information. So it gets, so when you're not talking about a physical asset, it gets, the line gets a little blurry, and I think that's where people get confused.
Right.
And so like a firewall at the edge of your network, or a security appliance of some sort, that's going to keep people out of your network, right? So that's going to keep unauthorized people out of the network. They can't come in the walls of the castle, right?
Right.
But now inside that castle, inside that fortress that you've built now, right, the four walls of your network, you have information that's inside of there, and those have access controls, privacy controls. And those privacy controls control who that's inside that fortress can see and interact with that, with that information. So just because you have a fortress and you have people that are contained within inside that fortress, it doesn't mean that everybody's allowed to go everywhere, right? You might have restricted areas of that fortress that only authorized personnel are allowed to enter, right?
Yep.
That's privacy. That access control to those areas, that creates the privacy, and that's what creates those private areas, is the rules that are in place to prevent people from being able to see things they're not supposed to see.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. You can be secure, but not private.
Right. Exactly right.
Yep. They can see in, but not get in. Interesting.
Right. Yeah. And now you can be private and not secure. Right.
How does that? Tell me that situation.
So you could have your blinds closed and your windows, no one can see in, but your front door might not have a deadbolt on it, and you can just turn the doorknob and walk right in.
Now, how would that side of the equation look online?
Yeah. So if you had like really well-defined role-based access controls, the people in your environment can only access things that have to do with their day-to-day operations. Controls are all locked down, but you have an outdated firewall with overly permissive policies on the edge of the network. And you have defenses that are easy to break. So you're private, people inside can't see things they're not supposed to see, but you're not keeping people out of your environment that aren't supposed to be there in the first place.
So you've got the people inside minding their rules, staying to their business, not going where they're not supposed to. And then somebody's like, those rules don't apply to me. Boom, bust down the door, and they're able to go where they want.
They just Kool-Aid man their way right into it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow. Okay. This is literally coming together in real time for me, and I have so many parallels and things I'm thinking of. But first, Josh says RBAC, very important security measures.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. Role-based access control is what he's talking about there. And that's literally, one of the best defenses that you can get, because that role-based access controls too, you got to look at what privacy does when properly implemented, is that privacy does feed back into security quite a bit. Because if you really look at it, think about, for example, role-based access control. So you can't access things in the environment that aren't directly related to your day-to-day activities. Now imagine your account gets compromised, right? Someone's only allowed their blast radius, right, of that breach of your credentials is only as big as your role-based access controls allow you to access. So if you're if you're an executive administrator and you have access to people's calendars and you have access to some sales things and things like that, marketing materials, that might be about all that's going to get impacted if someone breaches your account. Whereas, if you didn't have role-based access controls and you were just an employee and could do whatever you want in the environment, your blast radius is infinite, right? Because now,
right. There's no rules. Yeah.
Right. There's no rules. So like as an attacker, what can I go exploit based on having this this ungoverned person's access? I can go do whatever I want. So now that just fed back into security. And now I'm able to circumvent security measures and privacy measures because of the lack of role-based security controls assigned to that person.
Yeah. Wow. Nate, I agree. So dang interesting. I've never thought about it from that lens.
Yeah, it really is. It's very interconnected, but they are very, very different.
Yeah, yeah. And Jack says, RBAC sounds like denial, but default. Deny everything and open what is necessary, nothing else.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's the least permissive rule possible.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And G Squared, I saw your question. We have not discussed that yet. If we have a good time, I promise we will infuse that or possible full topic in a future weeks. So, okay, we're going to get to the big one. Spoiler, you guys, we are going to talk about flock cameras today. That is the big topic. That is the buzz topic. It could not be more closely related to this, the epitome of the topic. But first, I want another slightly controversial pit stop when it talks about this and it is relative is, have you seen, it's a super growing form of content online, and it's the First Amendment auditors. Do you know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So for anybody that doesn't, it's this growing, like celebrities, like big channels have actually shifted into this content now where they were doing completely different things. They feel they were wronged by authority figures and they're now making First Amendment. So essentially we have 5 permissions under the First Amendment, one of them being press in public, right? And so these people will go to public places and they will film. They know the laws, they know where they can be and where they cannot be. And one thing that you mentioned is very interesting with privacy and security is they will go into a government building where it is public. This is paid for by public tax dollars. You have the right to monitor your public officials in their duties. And so they'll go in and film. Now, of course, this is not an ordinary situation, so sometimes people get uncomfortable. Sometimes people don't know what they can and cannot do, and so they lash out. This includes law enforcement. This includes government officials.
Oh, yeah.
But one interesting thing is, one rule that even the auditors know, there are locations within that building that are, and the word you used is the exact same word, that are secure.
Right.
That you can film in the lobby. This is public, meaning it's not secure. You are welcomed in. It's also not private. You are welcome to see anything that the eye can see, you can film. So where it gets interesting is, let's say it's a government building where sensitive personal information, like a social security number, is being exchanged. If it is in the public sector, it is the government, it is the building's burden to afford privacy to that situation. So you can have a private room. You can have a private room behind a secured area of the building where you would say, we should not have this conversation out here because it is in public. And then they take them, and to have a secured private area of that building, if it's a public building, it needs to be clearly marked. It needs to be something that is secured and prevents people from just casually going into it. And that's everything you just said. They needed to secure it. They needed to have it private, because if it's a secured room, but it has a window that is open, you're entirely fine to not go. You can't go past it because you're now breaking security.
Right.
However,
you can film straight through the window.
You can film straight through the window. So securing it is not enough. They need to also invest in privacy, and they are not mutually exclusive. You can be secure and not private. Now, I'm trying to think how the other one would work. You can be, okay, so you can be private, not secure, if it's a door that you can't see through, but it's no signage, there's no blocking, there's no lock. If you open it, now it's not secure, but before it was private.
Right. Now it's neither.
They are two very different things.
They are. It's like, it's access versus visibility, or obtainability versus access. Even probably a couple of good, adjectives that you can just throw together that literally mean both, that parallel those. But it's tough because, with things that are so different, that feed each other, that have different requirements and different regulations, right?
Right.
When you're a company, you have vastly different rules that you need to follow that pertain to both security and to privacy.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, there's a lot more focus on privacy than there is on security.
I was just going there. I was just going to go there. Now, in cybersecurity world, it seems like what would be your take on the landscape if you had to give it like a general percentage? Are people coming to cybersecurity data management companies looking for security, keeping people out? Are they looking for privacy just to make sure people can't see in to protect their data that's being seen? Is it an expectation of both? How does it look when companies, a bank, a hospital, a small business, when they're approaching a company like this? How does it break down?
So it really is both,
Okay.
And what I will say is that on the data side, it's a lot of privacy discussion, and policy. And on the networking side of things, it's a lot of security, right?
Ooh.
So, and being as the network is your transport to get to and from places, it would make sense that the network focuses a lot on the security side of things. And then the data management, access side of things, and policy and governance side of the house, they talk about privacy because that's their purview. So when you're a company that really focuses on both data at flight and data, data in transit and data at rest, you definitely have both conversations quite a bit. Now, when you break those things up, though, what's interesting is there's privacy that applies to data in transit, and there's security that applies to data in transit.
We had talked about a super example of that recently, how the ransomware attackers have actually shifted. It used to be, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here. It used to be that they would get in, they would monitor your data, they would steal your data and keep it from you, right? So that is the security side. They're in there, they have it. The privacy doesn't really matter at that point because they already have it. You're not private at all. Right. Now they're saying, we actually don't care about the security really side of it. We just need to know your data. You can keep it. You can have your customer medical data. That's fine. But guess what? We have it now too, and we're going to let it out unless you pay us. That's a privacy situation.
That's a privacy risk. And
what
we just said was really interesting, if you think about it, is that in the public eye, privacy is more a forefront topic than security.
Right.
So ransomware knows that. So a company's at a bigger risk of reputational damage because of a privacy violation than they are over a security breach, because the privacy violation impacts people, and people are selfish, right? We only care about ourselves in a lot of cases.
It's how we survive. Yeah.
Right. If something impacts us, we care about it. If it doesn't, like lion chasing someone else, don't care about the lion. Lion chasing us, like, how do I get away from the lion? Right. And so it's
just don't be the slowest.
That's right. Just outrun the other people that are running from the lion.
Yeah. Selfish, but true.
Yeah. Don't need to outrun the lion.
Right.
Just need to outrun you.
That's literally a shift of this exact topic. Ransomware attackers went from being security-based focus to privacy-based. We don't need to steal your data. We don't need to encrypt it. You can have it. The topic of today, of 2026, is the data breaches. It's privacy. It's your private data that you care that someone else has access to. If someone steals my social, I still know the number, right? I still have it.
Correct.
But it's the privacy that they now have it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so it really is one of those things where, again, the difference between locking your doors and dropping your shades are two different parts of the same equation.
Wow. Now, I would say, okay, in that example, right, and especially the First Amendment auditors and a home and that kind of stuff, in that example, for me, it is easier to afford yourself privacy than it is security, right? It's much easier to get some shades or curtains to cover your windows than it is to properly secure your house. Is the cybersecurity world similar or no? I know it's a tough question.
It is a tough question. And I would actually argue that the data management side of the equation, and as a selfish network guy, it pains me to say this. I would say,
listen up, colleagues, listen.
That's right. The grumpy old network guys admitting that the network isn't the most important part of a discussion.
Wow.
I think it's, I do think the data management and privacy and role-based access control side of things is more complex.
I get it.
Than the security side of it. It's more esoteric. There's more moving parts. And
it's visible.
It's visible. And another thing that happens on that side of the house too, is that when people can't do their job because of overly restrictive permissions, the natural knee-jerk reaction is to remove the permissions. Just open it up. Just let whoever wants to get there, because so-and-so needs to get their job done. And we're preventing them from doing that.
Yep.
And then security and compliance, right, and privacy all of a sudden become a burden. They become, you become encumbered. And so that's the challenge. And that's the burden of security, is how do you keep things? I mean, the ultimate privacy is no one can do anything and no one can access anything and no one can ever access any file anywhere, right? That's the ultimate privacy, because no one can see anything, but no one could do their jobs and the company would go out of business. So there has to be a happy medium, right, between overly permissive and overly restrictive. Because what happens is, this is interesting.
This is interesting.
People naturally fall back to, okay, get rid of it if things are overly restrictive. If network policy preventing applications from working, like if the network team and security team go put new firewall rules in place and it breaks an application that's critical to business operations, and 8 a.m. is right around the corner and you're about to open and that application is down, do you continue troubleshooting and tell your users that the application is down? Or do you roll back your changes that put new security policy in place and make the application work for your business being open at 8? And 90% of the time, it's rip out the rules is the answer.
Yep.
And because it's damaging to the business. Well, we got to protect things. Well, if you protect them like that, we're not going to have a business. So rip it out. Right. And so that becomes the natural reaction. So a lot of the time you're fighting, political battles to defend the work that goes into place to create security and privacy.
Yep.
It's an uphill battle.
Big time. And it's layered too. This is such a nuanced discussion, so many layers to it. Now let's unpack this one a bit. This is interesting. So Leo, as perceptive as always, is asking us to evaluate this statement. Privacy is the burden of security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that okay? Let me say, privacy is the burden of security. Okay, break it down.
So if he's speaking of security as a team, yes, privacy is typically in the wheelhouse of the security team of a company.
Okay.
So it's not in the networking team's responsibility. It's typically not infrastructure. It's not application, right? It's not human resource. It can be human resources.
Right. Big time.
But what ends up happening is security as a team typically uses things from human resources and operations and other departments to create the privacy rules around their data sets and around their policies.
Yeah.
And so as a practice, typically privacy is the burden of the security department of a company. Because what's interesting about saying that, the reason for that is we just talked about how privacy is more of a hot button for a lot of people than security is, and it's
big time
in like the public eye. It's more apparent. It's more visible.
I don't think security is even at all like controversial or debated or I don't even you can't even imagine someone being against security.
Think about this though. There are security and cybersecurity departments at every company that focus on security, right? And they typically absorb privacy. Okay. There are very few companies out there who have a dedicated privacy practice.
Man, that's interesting.
It's coming though.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like it has to be coming now.
You talk to CIOs out there, and they, typically these practices live underneath it, and they are starting to break out, infrastructure security and, intellectual privacy or data privacy. Data privacy is starting to be more and more apparent as a standalone, organization inside of a company.
Wow. Yeah. And Leo, yeah. And so Leo said, Dan, I thought I was rephrasing what Nick said. Leo, I know. That's the beauty of it. It gave us a chance to clarify and button it up and think about other angles. It was exactly what we needed, my man. I knew what you were doing. Thanks for the assist. So, okay. I think it's the perfect time to then pivot over to the big discussion. And again, guys, we're not going to get into this is one of the pitchfork discussions where people try to burn buildings down and get really heated and kind of loose. I actually heard an analogy recently that was very interesting. And it was, right, a lot of this stuff, and I think you kind of alluding to it, can be political, right? Mm-hmm. It can be made into a political hot topic. And I heard a guy say the most dangerous political hot topics are when both sides agree. And the reason why it becomes dangerous when both sides agree is because people start to become paranoid. And if the other side, the people they hate, their enemy, this is their words, they agree with me on this fear, it must be real bad. So instead of having this debate where you are kind of like checking each other and keeping it humble and in balance, if both sides agree it's really bad, it ramps up into hysteria and it starts to sound crazy. Mm-hmm. It starts to sound like lunatics. A perfect example is data centers. Most people have some worries with data centers. The issue is it's almost become a joke to discuss data centers because people have taken it so far on the discussion that it's not even within the world of reality that we have to be able to discuss the other sides, the balance sides. And if there's nobody against you at all, you're just in an echo chamber. So that's the danger. I will say flock cameras is 1,000,000% in that. Most people have kind of a common understanding, but the problem is when that happens, the rhetoric gets going really, really, really crazy and people get really wound up. So I do want to establish that right away. Let's not get pitchforks. Let's have a great security discussion and how it relates here. And I'm not going to dox myself, but I will share a story that is very close to home and local to me. And I will give a timestamp on this so you guys can see. Let me get rid of this banner real quick. This was posted 22 hours ago. You guys, this topic of the live stream has been launched for 2 weeks now. 2 weeks now. It is. Oh, I do like that. Nate says I would love to have a data center talk. Maybe we'll work that in next week too. Yeah. It is related and it is on topic.
We should get part of our data center team to join us for that one.
Yep. And speaking of privacy, I do not have a CPAP machine, you guys. I do not have sleep apnea, but you see in the corner there's a sleep apnea ad. Why? Because I was working on a video about sleep apnea for people. So that's a little invasion of privacy.
That's fantastic.
That's crazy on topic. But 22 hours ago, last night, again, guys, this topic has been up for 2 weeks now, proven on YouTube for our stream. My township voted to extend the camera contract of Flock. And I've gone way too deep on one of my obsessed rabbit holes on this kind of stuff. And I'll give you guys some baseline indicators, even though most of you know it. And this became very controversial to the point where, the favorite local Facebook groups, some of the township board members commented to defend their vote, and it just went crazy. They had some of the worst arguments ever. But Flock cameras. They started out as license plate reading devices that are able to be utilized by local law enforcement to be able to track things like stolen cars. Mm-hmm. That's the concept. Now, some of the key details, it is a private business that is offering their service to local law enforcement that can only be paid for by tax dollar money. And we live in a representative democracy. So you vote for people in your local positions to make those decisions, right? People will get out of hand. When did the people have a say? When you put your person in to represent you, that's how the United States works, like
You
it
showed
or
that
not.
you aligned with that person and trusted that they would align with you in future topics.
I think people forget that. And I think that drives a lot of the heated discussions. We live in a representative democracy. We do not live in a direct democracy. How do I know? I taught about both of those at a very high level for a long time. Ancient Greece was a direct democracy. They went to a hill and they voted with coins on different topics. We don't do that. We have a lot of people. And okay, so it's paid for by taxpayer money. One of the biggest things that kind of the two most heated breaking points on these flock cameras is that all of the database is connected for the most part. If you are in a police jurisdiction in Idaho where I just left, if I come back to Michigan, they can use the data from Michigan flock cameras from those Idaho police, and there is no warrant that is required. You don't need a suspicion, you don't need a doubt of a crime. You don't need to have any of these burdens that traditionally you've needed. Now, on the flip side, they have been used to solve crimes such as stolen vehicles, such as missing children. On the other side, or also on that side, is everything is publicly available. People get weird about their license plates, and if you were to take a picture of a license plate, some people freak out. License plates are public. They are displayed just like the VIN number on your car, which is the vehicle ID number. Those are all public. That is not private. You taking a picture on a road is not against the law. It is public, not private. Okay, got that. But where it gets a little bit controversial when we're talking about the debate between security and privacy is that what happens with this data. It's not about how they're obtaining it, but it's about who has access to it, how they have access to it, and what they do with that access of privacy. Mm-hmm. And there have been documented cases of police officers being busted for using it to track ex-girlfriends and wives. There have been people that have been pulled over and held at gunpoint because their license plate was flagged when it was an I instead of a 1, and they were lawful, did nothing wrong. There was no suspect of a crime, and this happened. And so they felt violated. Now, the flip side would say, well, let's address the bad actors in those situations, not the tools, not the devices, not the security. And so this concept of, are we okay with what some would say is an invasion of privacy to have the ability to have more security? And this is using AI. This is using technology that is everything we're discussing right now. And it has gone even further, right? They're supposed to only be doing the license plate. Well, they have these one cameras called Condor ones where they move and they actually follow people. If you're going down a park, it will track you. It will follow you. And they also indicate things like the vehicle make, the vehicle color. And it is such a hot topic issue and goes hand to hand in here. Nick, as a cybersecurity expert and professional, where do you go with this as related to the topic today?
So lots of places. And so I will probably, I probably won't voice my direct opinion on should they be legal, illegal, vote them in, vote them out. How am I voting? All these things. That's all, to each individual person.
I agree.
In my mind, there are both security and privacy concerns, like we talked about. And what's interesting is the cases with Flock where they've had big issues. It's been security of the municipality that's actually been circumvented to get access to that camera data than it has been around a direct, issue with the cameras. Now, here's the thing. So there's been security analysts who have breached the security mechanisms of the cameras themselves.
Yes.
And gained access to the entire database of videos and gained access to a bunch of other back-end data, right? So there's bad actors who have demonstrated direct security violations and privacy issues with Flock.
Easily.
They didn't even have, like you pointed out earlier, they didn't even have multi-factor authentication until until very,
Like
very recently.
this week
Right.
was the first time.
It literally came out this week or this month, right?
All you needed was a password and username, and you could track anybody.
Right. And you could log in and get access to the entire system. And there was,
Yes.
like you said, there was no jurisdictions necessary.
Correct.
And their argument with that was that anyone in a public place can stick out a camera.
Yeah.
And you yourself on a public, in a public area can stick a tripod and record traffic going by, like you just talked about, your civil right to be able to record and have press. And you could then record all those license plates, and you could correlate them to another camera that you had set across town, and you could figure out how many of the cars from your first vantage point crossed paths with your second camera. And there would be nothing illegal about doing that.
No debate. That's not even controversial. That is factual.
Yep. And you'd be able to post it online and give access to those live streaming cameras with no password.
Yes.
Just like you were watching Condor's Nest.
Yes, you were right.
Right. And you could then, if you felt like it, you could go on to Claude Code and you could write yourself a little application that would give you the make and model of vehicles. And then you could count the make and model of vehicles of each different type of vehicle if you wanted to, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's not private. None of that is private.
None of this is private yet.
Correct.
Right. So if you really look at it, the things that people are concerned with getting access to on the Flock network of cameras, they haven't actually demonstrated any personal information beyond what is publicly visible on an overpass of a road.
Correct.
Right? Being recorded.
Correct.
Now, it's the correlation of that data and the access to the correlated data that now creates a privacy concern, because what you've now done is you've tied an identity, which is a license plate number, to activity, which is behavior. And now you're tracking identity and behavior, and you can now learn about someone's actual personal interactions with the world around them. Right?
Correct.
And that's where people say that there's a violation, because those things start to build a profile and they start to build an activity log. And you, as a perfectly law-abiding citizen, maybe you don't want a profile of you out there showing exactly where you go at what times every single day, in a profile of how often you deviate from that plan.
Yeah.
Right? You might not want that. Now, as someone who wants to live in a secure world where people can be held accountable for crimes, and if someone says, I saw a gray Honda pull up out front and snatch up a kid and drive away, do we want to be able to track down that person quickly by being able to see oh, we've just caught them on 4 cameras, they're heading this way on this road, put someone there to stop them.
Right.
So where's what's more valuable, right? The ability to, and if you look at it, when you track that person like that who's done a crime, right, you're violating their privacy in some people's eyes, but in those same people's eyes, it's a warranted violation of privacy, right?
Yeah.
Because you've broken a law. So now you deserve to have your veil of privacy broken.
Your rights are taken. Yeah.
Right. You no longer have the right of privacy because you broke.
Correct.
The law. Right.
Correct.
And that's the side that people are standing on, right? So if you think about it, again, you go back to it, there's a privacy issue because of the data and the way it's being aggregated. And it really is the aggregate of the data that is the privacy concern, not the individual actions of the cameras recording license plates or vehicle make and models. And people blur that one too.
Yeah.
Right. And so then you go back to the security side of it. Now, they didn't have multi-factor authentication. There's not role-based access control. There's not jurisdictional-based access, right? There's no walls around it. You don't have to extradite data from another state in order to get information about what that person did in that other state.
Boom.
You're allowed to just grab it.
Immediately.
Right. And so now so if we really boil it down to it, what is the actual concern? Is the concern that people who have appropriate access to private information are going to violate their code of conduct?
That's absolutely one. Yeah.
That's one of them. Or is the concern more that unauthorized people, from being unauthorized altogether, are going to break in and steal it? Right. And one is very much a policy-driven privacy concern, and one's very much an infrastructure-driven security concern. And this is one of those unique situations where I think, like you said, the topic has bubbled up so much that it's really has turned into Flock Flock bad, right? And it's kind of the way it ends up going to a lot of
Right.
people's minds. But what's funny about that is that, like, from a mass opinion, it seems to be the opinion. But then you look at what's happening across every municipality that's voting on them. They're voting to keep them.
The council members across the board are.
Yep.
And then that obviously interjects comments of, well, they're getting paid on the side. They're having this. Let me shift a question to you that I think is really important as someone on the cybersecurity side.
Yeah.
One of the hottest debated aspects is burden. And where does the burden fall? I watched a full interview with the director of security of Flock. And their entire take was, we make the tool and we give it to them. We don't police the police. We don't police the tool. We simply give it to them. And anytime there were breaches of security, like you talked about, or breaches of privacy, where people broke in, got information that they shouldn't, information is in the hands of who it was not intended for. Yeah. Flock says that's on the local jurisdiction. When you had a police officer using it in the wrong ways, that's not our place. When you have people access, even the people that have access, but they're doing it at the wrong times, the wrong ways. As a cybersecurity expert, is there an issue? Is there a barrier to Flock taking on that burden and putting in their own security guards, their own privacy guards to make sure the information is handled? Or is this just a reality of it, of they can't take that on? That's not possible for them.
So there's two sides to that. And where my head goes is immediately, as a cybersecurity person, my brain goes to chain of custody. With chain of custody, lies burden of security. And I think if for example, if Flock handed over the ability to use their cameras and they made everyone stand up their own instance of a database, and all of your videos went to that municipality's cloud infrastructure, they maintain that cloud, all the video, everything else, then I'd say Flock is safe to say, listen, we have zero chain of custody. We give you the provisions, we give you the requirements, you build out your own infrastructure, your cameras are recording to your own cloud environment. We don't have access to any of that. We have no ability to secure it or keep it private. That's up to you.
And I think people would prefer that. I think that would be welcomed.
Right. And then the challenge with that is that the ability to meet the demands of that infrastructure and the technology requirements in order to facilitate the recording and aggregation of that kind of data on a per municipality basis.
It's a government now.
It's probably cost prohibitive, and it's probably also technologically prohibitive. So
you're going to have an expert.
Municipalities have to be able to consume a service, right? They got to be able to say, like, yes, we have budget for this.
True.
We have access to put this data there, and we store the data in your database. You help us meta tag it, track it, tag it, everything else. We can search it and access it. We pay you for it. And we handle the physical deployment of it. And it can ride over our municipal connectivity in order to get the video to where it needs to go, right? In my mind, at that point, Flock has custody of some of that private data, and they have a role in keeping that information private. So, again, if you're going to have anything to do with the chain of custody, you intrinsically have a burden of security and privacy to maintain.
I agree.
I think so.
I agree.
Too.
Interesting.
And what's really interesting about this is that the news here is talking about it, but I haven't really seen it very much nationally. There's another very, very similar topic that goes along with this, and it's actually on the audio side of things. Have you seen the gunshot sensors?
I have. They even have, yes, I have.
Yeah. So the gunshot sensors are, in my mind, those are way more of a potential security or privacy violation than Flock cameras are, because they record conversations and audio.
And it's in like parks.
Yeah. And they're in in their hypersensitive omnidirectional microphones. So, but again, being able to have something that gunshots happen in a city, what block is it on? Being able to get officers to respond quickly. That's the advantage people like, the fact that it could record conversations and you could go to see what people were talking about in a park before another event happened, and you're unrelated and get listened to, you might find that a privacy violation.
And it's so tough, right? It's so tough. Let's say we're at a gas station, someone steals my car with my kids in it. Do I want flock cameras? Unbelievably, yes, right? Give me all of that. But as a history teacher, I do have to show the quote that runs true with this and is the ultimate debate in all of the world of security, Mr. Ben Franklin. Those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. I struggle with that. I don't. I see both sides entirely, and I sympathize with both sides. And this is obviously a very wise young man that had a great forward thinking, didn't think of flock cameras, but wow, does that hit the nail on the head when it comes to safety, liberty, and security.
It really does. And like, look how long that's stayed true.
All of it. All of it. Just different methods, just different vehicles to deliver the same concept.
It really is. So, I mean, if you go back to it, like, where does the burden live? I think the burden lives wherever the data lives. And, I think in some cases there's shared burdens of that. It's just like on the Digital Media Copyright Act side of things, the people with digital media, with the DCMAs, it's like, if you have, the person that's hosting media, is it their responsibility to protect the media, or is it the person that created the media to make it not copyable? Right. And it's the chain of custody, wherever it lives provides the burden of security. And that's kind of been defined just about everywhere else. And I think this will follow the same thing. I think it's a complex topic. I think as people learn more about it, it becomes less complex. I feel like it's the comprehension matrix, right? Where like level 1, it's everything seems overly complicated. And I think everyone's at level 2 right now.
Nick ruined my brain when he introduced me to this. Tell him real quick, we just have like 3 minutes left, what you're referring to right now in simple terms.
So the 3 phases of comprehension, right? You have phase 1, which is looking at a new topic. The topic seems overly complex. There's going to be, it's going to be way too hard to master or to learn, but you're going to charge forward anyway, but you're going to ask lots of questions. Phase 2 is this pink cloud that you live in, that where everything all of a sudden seems very simple, and everything about it, and you don't know why you were ever scared to learn it. And you're the expert in the topic, and you never need to ask anybody about anything. And that's arguably the most dangerous part of the 3 phases to live in. Phase 3 is where you kind of return back to phase 1, and you've learned enough about it now to understand exactly how complex it is, and the fact that you'll never fully understand it. You're lucky to know what you know, and you better hold on tight before you forget it.
I live there so often.
and that is where you want to be. You want to be in a constant phase 3 where you know enough about something to know what you don't know. And be willing to ask questions, because you've been humbled by the vast amount of information you've consumed on a topic that you're never going to know all of it. And the more questions you ask, the better.
And the biggest burden in my life is you put that on me, because I live in phase 3 on so many different categories, as you've introduced me and others have introduced me, and I'm a wildly curious person. The hardest aspect of living at phase 3, meaning I know enough, but I know enough to know I know nothing, is I have to interact with phase 2 people every day that are, in their mind, the greatest experts of all time. I literally know more, but I know enough to know that I know nothing. And then you talk to someone that knows less, but they, in their mind, know everything. That is so difficult. And I genuinely believe flock cameras, data centers, security, privacy, so many people believe they live in number 2, but there's no 3 to them. They can't see another step beyond that.
No, and it's because maybe they've never experienced a phase 3 before.
Agreed. It smacks you in the face once you get there.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yep.
It's seeing how the sausage is made, for sure.
Yeah. Man, what a fun discussion. Thank you guys for all the additions on there. G Squared, I've tabled a topic of yours, one we can look to in the future of rogue AI agents escaping and testing environments. Nick and I discussed something similar today. That's going to be a good topic. Data centers will be a good future topic, you guys. We're going to cover them all. It is so interesting. It is endless, the amount of things we can talk about and learn together. So I want to say thank you guys. This could have been a touchy subject to go over, and we all handled it with class. I'm very proud of this channel, this community. We will be back on Tuesday, normal time, normal place, 2 p.m. Eastern, and then hopefully every Tuesday for a while. September 15th, I believe it is. We have a very exciting guest that's going to be joining us, so stay tuned to that. Somebody closely related and working with Congruity, and we're working on some more future guests as well. So guys, I could not be more excited for what this fall is going to bring, and then moving forward, I'll kick it over to Nick for any final thoughts and statements.
Oh man, that's it. Just lock your doors and close your windows. It's a dangerous world out there. It seems like and you know what? Find yourself in phase 3 with things, right? That's right. What you want to do. Don't be a phase 2 person where you think you know everything about everything. It's a dangerous place to be. We see too much of it out there.
Facts. So true.
That's what I'm gonna be doing, is trying to just exist in either phase 1 or phase 3 as much as I can here for the next week, and then we'll see how it goes.
For sure. All right, guys. Have a great short week ahead, aka the weekend, and we will see you